The coming white male revolt is coming. I'm going to explain to you why that is, as well as deliver some of the breaking news of the day. There are some DEI protected classes that are shocked at their recent exclusion. We'll get into that. Jews, Asians, feminists, and the like. The problem with tribalism is eventually people will start identifying with their own tribe, especially if they're placed at the bottom of the totem pole. We'll talk about why that is problematic for the woke class. Some argue that white men are only getting what they deserve thanks to colonization, destruction, and unearthed benefits. But the problem with that argument is whites still make up the majority of Americans. In critical race theory, blacks can't be considered racist because they have no power. The problem with that is, what's up with Claudine Gay? All right, number 5, racism against whites is the new normal. We'll dive into that. What happens when systemic oppression happens to the majority? We'll talk about the reaction that we're starting to see with some whites that are finally waking up to CRT, DEI, and the like. Woke racists don't understand that eventually whites will see themselves as victims. There are consequences to racism, and the wokesters don't realize this. The white majority has become increasingly secular. That is part of the problem. When they've abandoned Christianity and embraced CRT, that is a problem for whites, and I'm going to explain why they better embrace God and turn back to God. 9, Jews and Asians that participated in the intersectional woke trap thought that they'd be never thought they'd be lumped in as whites and colonizers. That's happened. I'm going to tell you what they need to do to get out of that nonsense. All of that and more coming up on this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, por favor. All right. So I am on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. If you're on YouTube and Rumble, you like to catch me on video, I'm going to ask that you subscribe and that you review our channels. We would really appreciate that. The more reviews we get, that helps us to move up the chart, if you will. We become a little more visible. And so we would certainly appreciate that. All things social media, excuse me, at the Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me. I am on Instagram. I am on X. I am on Facebook. Those are probably the 3 main ones, but I'm also on True Social and Getter. And also, just real quickly, I want to talk to you about this promo that Mike Lindell of My Pillow is still having for my listeners, exclusively for my listeners. If you click on the radio podcast square at the top of the page and enter my name, Carl, that's spelled with a C, C-A-R-L, or give them a call at 1-800-858-0263 and tell them, the promo code is Carl, C-A-R-L. I'm going to tell you what's available to you now. As you know, Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of their life. He didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike has also created the Giza Dream bed sheets. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for myself, which is crucial for my busy schedule. They'll help you too. Mike found the world's best cotton called Giza. It's ultra soft and it's breathable, but it's extremely durable. Mike's Giza sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty as well. You cannot beat that with a bat. The Giza Dream sheets come in a variety of sizes and colors. Mike's latest incredible deal is the sale of the year. For a limited time, you will receive 50% off of the Giza Dream sheets. And you will receive a set for as low as $29.98. Go to mypillow.com and click on the radio podcast square and use the promo code Carl. That is C-A-R-L. There you'll find not only this amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all of MyPillow products, including the MyPillow 2.0. Mattress topper, MyPillow kitchen towel sets, and now even flannel sheets that are available. And there's so much more available as well. Again, that number 1-800-858-0263. Again, that number 1-800-858-0263, or go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square and enter my name, Carl, spelled C-A-R-L. We would certainly appreciate that. All right, let me just give you some quick some quick news stories that I read through before I get to the crux of the show. And I want to talk about the white male revolt that is destined to happen. And we can see that the left is even concerned about that, I believe, which is in part why we see the open borders. And that is a strategy. You know, I called it a crisis at the top of the podcast and my short monologue there, but it isn't a crisis. It is a strategy. It is the great replacement theory that the left always claims that the right is attempting to do. And when we're simply not, they're the racists. They're the ones that think about this stuff all day long because they want one party rule inside of the United States of America. They figure that if they can bring a bunch of illegals into the country and gain or garner loyalty from those illegals, they'll be able to keep their power. They'll be able to keep you poor, and they'll be able to live lavishly while you what's the word that I'm looking for? While you while you live like a scavenger, like a shrimp at the bottom of the ocean. I want to show you this video here before we get into the crux or the major story or topic that I want to deal with today, and that is what I believe is going to be a white male revolt that is coming. What we've seen across the United States of America, all this anti-Semitism and whites constantly being bombarded, even white liberals and leftists that have bought into this nonsense, this CRT and DEI. Well, what's going to happen? Eventually, CRT and DEI is going to come back to haunt them. They don't realize this now. They're too busy trying to feel virtuous. But when the crap hits the fan, trust me, they're going to get rid of this DEI and the CRT and all this kind of crap. So just brace yourselves for that. A day of reckoning is coming. Thank you, Gabe. But first, here's what I want to talk about. Just real quick. You guys may have heard the story that Marjorie Taylor Greene was swatted yet again. You guys know what swatted is. You know what it means to be swatted, right, Gabe? Have you been swatted before? Gabe might be swatted in the future. He's looking forward to that. But right now, he hasn't been. Thank God, nor have I been. So here's what the term swatted or swatting means. Basically, a person like Marjorie Taylor Greene, this has actually happened to several very well-known conservative podcasters, politicians. It wasn't just Marjorie Taylor Greene that this happened to on Christmas Day. It actually happened to her a few days before. But swatting is essentially this. Somebody will call in to the local law enforcement in that person's area. They'll get that person's address. In this case, they got this crazy guy that looks like just an insane person, literally found Marjorie Taylor Greene's address and called in to the 911 hotline, emergency hotline, and basically said, I can't recall if he said there was like a murder, suicide, or a domestic situation where somebody was being held hostage. So they'll call in this fake emergency call, and the call is so extreme, the call sounds so violent, as in, listen, someone is being held hostage, someone is being held at gunpoint. What'll happen is instead of just your local police officer showing up at the door, maybe two police officers, the SWAT team literally comes to the door because a 911 caller says this person has a gun. This person has already done this. So everybody's on high alert. The SWAT team is headed to that location ready to pop a cap in somebody who is unexpecting of them even showing up at their door. So can you imagine if someone gets a knock on the door any time of the day, but perhaps even in the middle of the night, because this has happened to her in the middle of the night or very early morning hours before, as well as Tim Pool. And then if they react rashly, you have a SWAT team, member that's sitting there with with likely his rifle aimed or targeted at that individual, ready to smoke him in a split second. So if they overreact, if they reach for something, the victim of the swatting could get killed. Now, this has happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene so many times now that the local police department and SWAT team coordinate with her security detail to make sure that what's happening is actually happening. In this case, I'm thankful for that, but in this case, they were able to say her security detail, no, this isn't happening. It's sad that she has to have a security detail, but apparently this has happened to her 8 times, and she gets a lot of death threats. That's sad. That's where we are, sadly, in the political games. This should be a felony with a mandatory minimum sentence, in my opinion, and a fine. It is absolutely insane. Let me just real quick. Let me see if I can find real quickly here the okay. This was on Revolver News. I'm going to read you some of the messages that this insane man that apparently thinks he's a woman, his name is Ben McLean. He's just a nut job. He says the FBI is recruiting him. But he says, hey, you want to fight an enemy of the ex-president, meaning Trump? I'm here, just message. Also, I'm curious how big of a parasol the skin from your girlfriend's swollen Georgia peach would make. Fight me, big mouth. I'll effing smash your brains out on a curb. Have a nice time. Look, this is a message. This is the nut job that looks like trying to it looks like a big crazy dude, right? With girly hair and makeup. You know what I'm saying? You know how that is. Fight me, big mouth. I'll effing smash your brains out on a curb. Have a nice time looking over your shoulder. S-bag, he says. Tell Marjorie that a small high velocity projectile will soon find its way into her cranium. So he threatens to shoot her in the head. Guys, this guy has not been charged. He lives in a different state, apparently in New York. Marjorie Taylor Greene, as you know, lives in Georgia. And the FBI has done nothing about this. If the FBI can go hunt down J6 protesters 3 years later, why can't they get this crazy guy and put him in prison where he absolutely belongs? And apparently, he had messaged either a friend of Marjorie Taylor Greene, but he's messaged her too. Let me know when you're off the trail. When can I expect you home? Laugh out loud. Oh, Brian, her A crack is so pale compared to the rest of it. I think we should. I mean, it's just insane. The guy is a total. Wow. I mean, the guy is crazy. Basically, he wants to cut Marjorie Taylor. I didn't even know what this parasol thing was. Jean parasol or something. Didn't anyone appreciate the Jean parasol? A GEIN parasol. Apparently what that is literally cutting the skin of a person off and contouring it to some object or something like that. Didn't know what it was until today, and I may still be unclear on that. But that's one story. Now let me bring you a couple of other stories. There were two white South African teenage girls. You guys may have heard about this story that were nearly stabbed to death in New York City. They were vacationing with their parents. So 2 teens stabbed on Christmas in New York City's Grand Central. I want all people dead. It was a black assailant, a black perpetrator, 2 white girls from South Africa, and he just stabs them. He wants them dead. This is the consequence of DEI and CRT, which is why I'm going to get into this. I believe a white male revolt is coming. Honestly, it's got to come, or it better come, or this country is just it's just gone. It's done. It's finito. There is no returning. So we'll talk to you about that shortly. But I wanted to bring you this story just because I feel like it is so very important. So again, this is according to Breitbart. 2 teenage girls were reportedly stabbed on Christmas Day while enjoying a meal at the Grand Central Terminal. The incident occurred before noon on Monday at a restaurant called Tartanary in the Grand Central Dining Concourse. According to reports, the alleged assailant, a guy by the name of Stephen Hutcherson, 36 years old, of the Bronx. Again, he's a black dude. He argued with restaurant staff over sitting in the restaurant space, at which point he allegedly remarked that the 2 teen girls, they're only 14 and 16 years old, were allowed to sit there before pulling out a knife and stabbing both of the young women, according to authorities. According to WABC TV, he was charged with felony counts of attempted murder, assault, criminal possession of a weapon, and a misdemeanor endangering the welfare of a child. Will this stick in New York? That's another question. Will this stick in New York? However, the outlet noted that he is also being investigated for a potential hate crime, as law enforcement sources told the New York Post that the man yelled, quote, "I want all the white people dead," close quote, adding, quote, "I want to sit next to the crackers," close quote. The two teens visiting from South Africa were taken to Bellevue Hospital to be treated for their injuries. One of the young women was stabbed in the thigh and the other in the back. All right. I want all the white people dead, he said. I want to sit next to the crackers, he said. DEI is not nonviolent. This is what I want to get across to you. For any of you that have bought into DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, CRT, or critical theory, it is time to abandon this nonsense. It is not about equity, equality. It's not about any of that crap. It's about utilizing power to achieve things you would not be otherwise able to achieve because you just don't have the ability to do so. We see that in Claudine Gay, and I'll get into that in just a second. She's a Christmas gift that keeps on giving. I want you to understand. Eventually, the left will eat their own when it comes to DEI. This is where this video comes in. Let me set this video up. Thank you, Gabe, for getting it together. This is a Delta employee that is dealing with who I found out later is basically a woke trans activist, if you will. 1.3 million followers on Instagram. He had done a interview with Dylan Mulvaney, of all people, and he was just there to harass this Delta employee. And fortunately, this Delta employee put him in his place after first, in my opinion, trying to be tolerant and deal with the issue professionally, and eventually he had had enough. And well, anyway, let's play the video. And I want to explain something, but I want you to keep this in mind, and I'll circle back to it after this video. This is a black man. He's dealing with a white dude with gender dysphoria that thinks he's a woman. All right? I want you to understand that. Let's go ahead and roll the video. Por favor, Gabe.
And what about when a Delta employee misgenders you intentionally?
While he's talking, you're talking.
You just misgendered me again.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Gotcha.
Both of you have.
Sorry.
Wasn't intentional, but if you want to take it personal, that's also.
Well,
okay.
she did do it intentionally twice.
You're talking to me too.
You said she and then you said he.
You're being condescending, and if you want to continue, I have full authority to escort you out the building right this moment if you want to play that game with me.
Okay.
Would you like to continue 3 days before Christmas? I really don't mind.
I'm good. I'll just put this on.
All right, that's it. I mean, but wait for this employee to stand up to this fool. Misgendering. Listen, gender is fluid. That's why they use the term. That is a biological male. All right, with a mental disorder. And no one should be playing the game with that fool. So I'm glad this guy didn't. But I want to bring this to your attention. 90% chance that if that young black man votes, he votes Democrat. 90% chance. Obviously, I could be wrong. About a 10% chance that I could be wrong. But chances are, if he does in fact vote, 90% chance that he votes Democrat. Here's the problem with CRT, critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of these victim classes. Eventually, they will eat their own. What you had is a struggle going on. It's more than just that clip. It's a deeper struggle going on. That delusional white dude that thinks he's a woman thinks he's higher on the intersectionality totem pole, if you will, than the black dude. See, they're fighting for who's or at least that dude is fighting for who's the most oppressed. It's absolutely crazy. It is absolutely crazy. All right. So anyway, now, what else did I want to mention? There were a couple other political things that are in the news. The Michigan Supreme Court. This is good news. If I can pop it up. The Michigan Supreme Court decided not to go away of the communists. And let me pop this up. Of the communists in the Colorado Supreme Court. The Michigan Supreme Court rejects the effort to ban Trump from the ballot. First off, the guy has not been convicted of insurrection. He has not even been charged with insurrection. So good deal by the Michigan Supreme Court and not buying into and going the way of the Colorado coup, which I do believe that it will be overturned. Lord willing, Supreme Court will hear this case, the case about Colorado, immediately after the Christmas and New Year holiday season and reverse that decision, because it is absolutely stupid. Vivek Ramaswamy has pulled all TV ads. So that is very interesting. All right, so Vivek campaign stops all TV ad spending less than a month before Iowa and New Hampshire. This according to CNBC. Vivek Ramaswamy's presidential campaign has stopped spending money on television ads and does not have any TV ad reservations booked, according to his campaign and data from an ad tracking firm. As recently as the first full week of December, the GOP entrepreneurs campaign spent more than $200,000 on TV ads. Last week, it spent just $6,000 on ads. All of it on TV figures from the firm Ad Impact Show. And honestly, $200,000 is a little bit of money. And the reason why, that is the reason why he was so aggressive. Just seeing that in the debates and on social media. The guy, listen, regardless of how you feel about him, and I know many of you love him, I thought he was Vivek the fake all along, but one thing I did admit to, and I will admit to, he is the best communicator that I've seen on conservative ideas since Ronald Reagan. I'm not convinced that he believes all of those things, but maybe in time, hopefully God will work with him, and perhaps everything he says he will believe, or at least, we'll see a track record of it. But who knows? Maybe Trump has offered him a position. Maybe he's just figured, or he has seen in Iowa that he's not gaining any traction. You guys may have heard the news that Ron DeSantis pulled money from Iowa. That's misleading and deceiving. One super PAC pulled money from Iowa. Another added even more money into Iowa. But right now, Trump is way ahead in the polls in Iowa. If the polls are real. All right, it's a caucus. Iowa is completely different. It is a caucus. So many people, they're going to have to face each other. They're going to debate each other, and they're going to try to convince each other to vote for this guy, or that guy. So we'll have to see what happens on the ground. If in fact Trump does walk away with Iowa and he wins by 20 or so points, 30 points like the polls show, I don't think there's any need for anyone to continue, but they have the freedom to continue if they want to. I won't knock them. That is the way the process works. All right. So we'll have to wait and see. So I just thought those were some interesting stories that I definitely wanted to bring you. On that front, Argentina's new president lays off 5,000 government employees. That is another great headline. Let's see, where is but the story would not pop up. That was really weird. Okay, that was really weird. I'm sorry. Let me see if this pops up. Okay, Argentina's new president lays off 5,000 government employees. We weren't sure if this guy was the real deal or not. Apparently he is. So Buenos Aires, Argentina, there's a picture I'm watching here. The administration of Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, said on Tuesday that his government won't renew contracts for more than 5,000 employees hired this year before he took office. The move was part of a sweeping plan of cutbacks and devaluations announced by the right-wing libertarian since he took office on December 10th to transform Argentina's struggling economy. Good for him. The contracts for other government employees who were hired prior to 2023 will be reviewed, authorities said. The 2023 cutoff is apparently meant to target the practice of outgoing presidents padding the payrolls in their final year. All right, so sounds like a good start. Let's see if he goes further. And in fact, in Argentina, he's going to have to go. He's going to have to go further. But that is definitely a good start in keeping his promises. Okay, now let me get to the nitty gritty of the program, and I'm going to go through these. I'm going to fly through these points, if you will. So let me just share this. There was an article that was in the American Spectator, and it is one of the best articles that I have read on the issue of critical race theory, DEI, and how it impacts whites and what's going to happen. All right. What's going to happen, what is starting to happen, and the antidote to CRT and DEI, which I will get to. So let me share this. All right. The name of the column by the American Spectator was "When White People Start Believing Critical Race Theory." Obviously, it's a problem. So there's about 9 points that I'm going to go through real quickly here. Number one, some DEI protected classes, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, are shocked at their recent exclusion. Jews and Asians, and I'll circle back to this a little later, but Jews and Asians, even the old school feminists, they're all shocked and surprised, white liberals in general, that some of them are now becoming victims of the DEI and CRT that they were once proponents of. And of course, it's going to come back to bite them in the butt. You know, the same thing. Listen, I don't know if that Delta employee, the video that you just watched, that Gabe just played for us, I don't know if he buys into any of this stuff. I don't even know if he knows about any of this stuff. But if he's a Democrat voter, at some point, he's bought into CRT, DEI, because it's just what the Democrat Party does. They try to brainwash their entire constituency, and they want victim classes. They want everybody to exist within these victim classes. But there's a problem with that. The problem with tribalism, the problem with creating victim classes is eventually, and this is the second point, that people will start identifying with their tribe, especially if they're placed at the bottom of the totem pole. So here's an example. You have a bunch of white men that were taught to believe in today's society, and I would argue probably most of whites living in America today were taught that character mattered, but now they're being taught character doesn't matter, their behavior doesn't matter, all that matters is their skin color and what's between their legs. Well, that doesn't, honestly, that doesn't jive with the vast majority of white Americans. We don't live in a systemically racist America, except for the Democrat Party that wants to keep America racist. As long as they can. Racist, sexist, they need all of those talking points in order to win elections, because God knows all you have to do is look at their policies that are being implemented by the Biden administration right now, and nobody wants to vote for that crap, right? So they have to keep people mad and angry. They have to keep people convinced that, you know, the Republicans are out to get them, white men are out to get them, those colonizers and all that kind of stuff. That's the only way Democrats can get votes, is to keep you mad, or to get you mad, or to convince you that you're a victim and you're unable to succeed in America. All right, that's the only way they can keep your vote. All right, once you realize you're a free human being and you are free to utilize your God-given gifts to go as far as you can go and to work as hard as you want to work to get wherever you need to get, then the Democrats can't hold you. And they realize that. So they try to create this tribalism, but it's not going to go well. And it's starting to slowly but surely, thank God, backfire. Because I think it's intuitive. People want to be judged based upon their character, based upon their behavior, not based upon their skin color or their genitals. So now you're seeing white men and even in some cases women that are being denied college admissions just because of their skin color. They're being denied job placement. They're being denied job promotions. As a result, they're made fun of. You can be racist. You can say all the racist jokes you want against white people, and that's cool. You say something against a black or Latino, oh, it's over. It's on like Donkey Kong. And I got to tell you this, when it comes to college admissions, when it comes to job placement, when it comes to promotions, that absolutely terrifies me, because I want the very best person available for those jobs placed in jobs. I don't want a black female pilot to get the job just because she's a black female pilot. I want the best pilot in an airplane that I'm on, because I don't feel comfortable being in a metal box tens of thousands of feet above the surface. All right. So I want the best pilot possible, preferably somebody that had military experience flying in the military, even beforehand, in the event that something goes wrong with the computer system and these major airliners, they can kind of, they can figure its way out. You see how I got this figured out, Gabe? I don't like flying back in the day, I used to love flying. I hate flying now. Some argue white men are only getting what they deserve, thanks to colonization, destruction, and unearthed benefits. But here's the problem with that. All right, here's the problem that the woke left is going to have trying to continue to beat up on white people. White people make up the majority of America. Now, I've already mentioned this, and I told you I'd circle back to it. This is why Biden is keeping the borders open. They want to change that. Not only do they want to, in the short term, change the demographics of different places within the United States so that the Democrat Party has a clear voting advantage in some states, and they want to keep their blue strongholds, if you will. But the goal is replacement theory. You know, what the left says we're for when we're not. All right, they want to replace whites with a bunch of illegal aliens that will vote for the Democrat Party because they will be poor and they will not get welfare checks if they don't vote for the Democrat Party. That's the goal. That is the goal. They want to keep you poor and impoverished. All right, I say this all the time. The Democrat Party is only successful if you're unsuccessful. The moment you become successful and you realize you don't need the government to take care of you behind, Democrats know they'll lose your vote. All right, so make sure they lose your vote. All right. So most blacks today, or most white Americans today, sorry, I'm looking through my notes, we're taught to be colorblind. That's the vast majority of white people. You're always going to have some stragglers, right? Some racist whites. You even have some racist blacks. Those are stragglers. Those are few and far between. That's why it's such big news stories when some racial issue happens, because in a country where you have nearly 350 million people, not quite, but nearly 350 million people, when one person is killed by another person, it's a big story. Right, especially when it involves a racial issue. But the fact that those stories are shared on news media is proof positive that they're rare. That's the truth. That sounds crazy, but that's the truth. Think about that. 300 something million people. Police officers make millions of stops annually. You get a situation where a black man is killed in a stop and it's like, oh my God, the entire world is racist. The entire police department is racist. It's so asinine. It's so juvenile. But most Americans aren't taught to think critically anymore. And they're just taught to be racist. But most whites, again, grew up in a colorblind society. They grew up believing that America, I'm talking about whites alive today, that America is a melting pot. I mean, think about the hippies from the 60s. A lot of those were Democrats. There were some conservatives too, you know, some Dems that turned into Republicans, so on, etc. But America is a melting pot. That's what they grew up to believe, not to judge an entire group based on the actions of one, or that would be racism. And most whites, quite frankly, one of the worst things that they can be called is a racist. I mean, that's why, one of the reasons why the Republican Party is so feckless. They're absolutely terrified of being branded a racist because it was just a no-no while they were growing up. So you're talking about 50, 60 plus years where people, the vast majority of white Americans even, just didn't, their parents may have been racist, their grandparents may have been racist, but they're like, nah, we don't want anything to do it. We don't view them in the same way. And again, there's always going to be some that do, but for the most part, that isn't the case. Number 4, in critical race theory, and again, in critical race theory, they always talk about the people of color, not colored people. That's intentional. All right. That way, every group is against whites. All right. That way, there's no group that isn't against whites. So they will talk about people of color, try to blend everyone in. That is a strategy from the left. All right. So keep that in mind. But in critical race theory, they argue that blacks can't be considered racist because they have no power. Well, don't blacks hold all the power now? I mean, think about it. We're living under Barack Obama's third term for all intents and purposes. All right, guys making buku money. Him and his wife still running shops, still running the Democrat Party from the sidelines, if you will. Look at Claudine Gay. You had the one chick. Was she from MIT or whatever the other school was that was let go? One of the prestigious universities in the United States. One of them was let go. I can't remember. MIT, I forget the other school that was up there. And then you have Claudine Gay, a lady that straight up copied a lot of Carol Swain's work, plagiarized it. They give her a pass. A lot of and Barack Obama, we found out, was lobbying for Claudine Gay to keep her job behind the scenes, but she gets a pass. Why does she get a pass? Not because she's capable of actually doing the work, but because she's black. She's a black woman. A lot of the people that were fighting for Claudine Gay to stay, including Barack Obama, she just, she didn't cite things correctly. She didn't cite her sources. No. That chick stole paragraphs of other people's work and put it into her work and pretended like it was her own original thoughts. They were her own original thoughts, her own original thinking. The chick is a straight up cheat. She's a straight up plagiarist. If I had been expelled, dismissed from Harvard for plagiarism, I would sue, during her tenure, not just as president, because she's been on staff there for quite some time, I would sue the pants off of Harvard. I would go for that endowment. I want $50 billion. You guys are going to let this chick, this cheat who isn't smart enough to be at Harvard. And let's face it, not all of us can go to Harvard. I know you guys think I deserve an honorary doctorate there, but even I don't believe I belong at Harvard. Some people belong at Harvard. I'm not one of them, and I'm not mad at it. You know what I mean? I can read, I can study, I can learn, I can do what God has called me to do. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? But some people you run into, you're like, dang, that fool is smart. You know, he should be here, or she should be there, or she should go there, so on, etc. Claudine Gay doesn't belong there. Blacks hold the power. Blacks hold the institutional power. I mean, they can beat up people on the streets right now, stab 2 girls in New York City, and it's barely a news story in most places. See, racism against whites has become the new normal. From government Christmas parties like we saw in Boston, where they're excluded, to safe spaces on college campuses, racism against whites have become the new normal. But what happens when the systemic suppression happens to the majority? Because whites by far are still the majority of the United States. What happens when there's an awakening amongst those whites? You have white kids, college age mostly, that have been embracing CRT while abandoning Christianity. That's a huge mistake. And that's obviously on purpose. That is obviously on purpose. The left creating this new morality, if you will, that I speak of. So where a lot of these college age kids believe that now being white is bad, but they'll eventually find out being at the bottom ain't so fun. And when they find out that being at the bottom isn't so fun, what happens when they that are systemically suppressed realize that they're the majority? Finally, they're not going to put up with that crap. I'm going to get back to that Christian CRT versus Christianity in just a sec. This is the 7th point. I haven't been numbering them. This is the 7th point. Woke racists don't understand that eventually whites will see themselves as victims. So woke racists don't get that their racism has consequences. You can't continue to bully people. You can't continue to push people around to a point where eventually someone just doesn't say, stop. Enough is enough. That is why there was a civil war. That is why there were, civil rights issues in the United States, civil rights fights within the United States of America. Eventually people say enough is enough. We haven't gotten to that point, but we're getting there. We're starting to see some of that occur. Number 8, the white majority has become increasingly secular. I told you I would bring that full circle. So their Christianity served as a limit to behavior. And that means the white majority used to believe in a biblical worldview or a Judeo-Christian worldview, let's just say a biblical worldview. But as they abandon that, and so many of them college age, they go to college or they're brainwashed on their phones or they're watching, television. The Christianity used to limit their behavior. So when there was a Christian worldview dominant in America, it limited how you would treat people. Hey, man, you're going to treat people where you believe in the Bible. And I know, listen, Christians have used the Bible wrong. I get it. No one's perfect. We're not Jesus, so shut up. You're not perfect either. All right, so I know that Christians have misused the Bible at times. But please, stop acting like you're Jesus, because you're not. All right, but Christianity as a whole, being lived out, or at least I should say the Christian worldview or biblical worldview being lived out, it limited people's behavior. They would feel a sense of conviction because that was their morality. No, this is wrong, because we looked to the Bible for objective truth. We looked for someone or something higher than ourselves. But it also put a check on how you would allow others to treat you. No, I'm the son of a king. I'm the daughter of a king. You're not going to treat me that way. You see what I'm saying? And that's gone now. So Christians submit to God. We view each person as an individual. Each person is valued. Remember, the Bible tells us neither Jew nor Greek, neither male nor female, neither slave nor free. Nothing can separate you from the love of Jesus Christ. The Bible is sitting there saying, listen, forget all this race stuff, the sexism stuff, slave, free. I love you all. God created us all. All right. So Christianity isn't tribal, it's universal. And that's what we have to go back to in this country. We have to go back to a biblical worldview. I fear, and part of what I see, even in the conservative movement, more people have become secular in the conservative movement. So I'm starting to realize and see that the conservative movement isn't going to be as fruitful as I hoped, at least not in the immediate future, because we've just grown too secular. So a lot of this stuff is going to end up circling back. But Christianity is the answer. A biblical worldview is the answer, because each person has a role in the body of Christ. And eventually, I think more and more whites are going to wake up to this truth. But the goal of embracing CRT, or having these white kids and white liberals, embrace CRT and abandon Christianity, because now you have a new God and which dictates their behavior. If you believe that all people are bad, white people are bad, and you're white, you're willing to let somebody take your job, or let somebody cuss you out or beat you up, I deserve that. I deserve that. You know what I'm saying? No, you don't. No, you don't. The only people that are being, I shouldn't say the only people, but the largest group that's systemically oppressed or suppressed in America now are whites. And eventually they're going to grow tired of that. Here's the last point that I want to make. Jews and Asians that participated in the intersectional woke trap didn't believe that they'd be lumped in as colonizers. Well, they are. So if you see, this is what happened with liberal Jews. Liberal Jews, you even hear the Ackmans and Alan Dershowitz, this article. And again, this was from a great article in the American Spectator called "When White People Start Believing Critical Race Theory." You get the donors like the Bill Ackmans of the world, where they're like, listen, the Jews are being oppressed. Jews are part of the victim class. And it's true, right? Jews are being oppressed. But what the article points out, and I think it's a really great point, in order for Jews to get out of this being persecuted, and let's face it, biblically, Jews are going to be persecuted. But within the United States of America and in Western civilization, I would say this. It's time to drop CRT. It's time to drop critical theory in general. It's time to drop DEI. Totally reject it. Jewish community, you should totally reject CRT. You should totally reject DEI. It's not enough to say, guys, look at us. We're victims now. The left doesn't care. To them, you're just a white colonizer. All right? So now it's time, even though there's a small population of you on the earth. But let's speak specifically about the United States. Drop the CRT, drop the DEI, drop funding institutions that teach this crap, drop the critical theory in general, drop it, reject it. Don't try to, I'm a victim. No, reject the idea, the teachings that led to all of these people becoming victims and you becoming part of a victim class. Because I got to tell you, Jews, when it comes to blacks, you see what's happening, even with the trans movement. Apparently, you're not a big enough victim. So let's learn our lesson. But I'm telling you, white people are going to start to revolt. We are seeing that now. A lot of college students, especially Jews, are starting to wake up like, oh, crap, I thought I was part of the team. Now I'm finding out they hate me, too. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, subscribe wherever you go to get your podcast. Apple, Google, Spotify, and Rumble is where you can find us. Also, find me on all things social media at the Carl Jackson Show. I'm on Instagram. I am on X. I'm on Facebook. All right, those are the top three, but I'm also also on Getter, and I'm on True Social. And do not forget to take advantage of the deals, great deals that are available to you with the 60-day money-back guarantee at MyPillow.com. Those Giza Dream Sheets as low as $29.98 right now. MyPillow.com, promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, or give them a call, 800-858-0263. Guys, until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.